Right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the April 4th episode of MP Office Hours. It is awesome to see all of you here today. I am Square Kirchner. I am joined by a whole bunch of my friends. My other co-host, Joy Shutter-Helbing, is in Florida this week, I believe at a conference. I can't honestly remember. Probably should know that, but that doesn't slow us down because we've got a lot of really smart and engaged people joining us today, and we're gonna dive right in. But first, a couple of our normal announcements. MVP office hours are always on the first and third Fridays of the month. Joy and myself can be reached through LinkedIn through the normal ad channels. But as always, the best way to reach us and to get help is to use the success community. We check our email, we use our hashtags, all the normal stuff. We have a couple events. I mean, we are in event season, I guess. So we've got True North and Mid Atlantic and Mar Dream and Tahoe Dream and Text Dream and all coming up in the next month and a half. Connections is right around the corner. Anything in the next 2 months that I forgot that I didn't add to the list that the group wants to include? Cool. That means I didn't miss one. Um, on the left-hand side is the QR for the success community. Make sure you use that as often as you can when you're posting. As far as today's call, we invite everyone to be part of this call. Raise your hand and share your thoughts and your experience and your ideas. Post your links, post your answers, whatever you want in the chat. And if you've got a question, raise your hand or add it to the chat as well. I've got Michelle giving me a hand today, but we will try to get to you as soon as possible in the order that it received. Most important, though, we are recording. You probably saw that at the start of the call, which means please don't share any private or proprietary information when you're talking about your questions or if you're screen sharing. We want to have fun, so let's keep it professional and positive. And most importantly, because we are recording, we want to make sure that everyone understands that we aren't going to allow anyone to transcribe or record our call for a variety of reasons. If you do have Zoom AI running, we're going to have to ask you to drop. And with that, we had no posts in success in the last 2 weeks, but we're fortunate that Michael had a question to kick us off, and I'm sure we'll have others as we get started. So with that, I am going to stop sharing this so I can see all of your wonderful faces, and let's hand it off to Michael.
Okay. So for those of you who know NPSP, I'll give you some context here. I have a client that for many opportunities has people manually editing contact roles, not for donations, we're ignoring those, but for earned revenue, contact roles are being used like they are in Sales Cloud, which is to say, add a contact role, sometimes mark them as primary, etc. We want to replicate the NPSP trigger functionality where if you put someone in the NPSP lookup field primary contact, it gives them the contact role and marks it primary. I've got a flow that does that. If you change the primary contact field, no problem. I'm trying to build the reciprocal flow, which is to say, if you mark an OCR primary, it should dump them into the primary contact field. And just remembered why we all hate OCRs, which is that the is primary field does not appear to be accessible in a record triggered flow unless someone has a clever workaround.
That was you handing off to the group then to answer your question, right?
Workarounds accepted.
Not even accessible if you like the field just isn't on the list.
So this is the worst part. The field is on the list, but if you try to include it in a formula, it tells you the field doesn't exist. If you try to include it in a decision, I can pull up the error, but it says it's a derived field that is not accessible in record triggered or scheduled flows.
So it's a derived field.
So kind of like user ID and account team member, as I've learned this week.
Sure, that sounds about right.
And this is opportunity contact role, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, just making sure I didn't forget that. I've been forgetting everything
Do
today.
you need to use the one that's natively provided, or can you create your own?
I well, if I didn't use the one that was natively provided, I would probably need all sorts of other workarounds or record triggered flows.
I mean, well, I won't bring this up right now because it's a totally different thing, but I kind
Does
of feel
anyone-
like those objects, like the OCR object, the ACR, right? Account contact role and account team and all those objects have so many restrictions on them that there are no good answers because even if you find one, it doesn't work in every instance.
And I will admit, if anyone wants to share and understands more about what the is primary field really is used for, I don't really know. I was mostly just trying to make sure everything comports with the default setup so that we don't break something we don't know about.
So
I don't remember it having much functionality unless you know of something, Michelle, that
well, I pulled up the object reference just to look at it. And the properties for that field are create defaulted on create, which makes me think that what you really need to do is you need to find a contact role record where the role is primary.
But
I'm
it
wondering-
often is not.
Okay, because I was wondering, like, what I would do is I would go look at an opportunity contact role that I had where someone was marked as primary and then do a query and see how that, like, how the rest of it is structured around it to see if I could figure out a way to get around the is primary being a derived field, because my suspicion is that instead of it just being a checkbox of sorts, it's a checkbox that gets updated because someone is assigned to the primary contact role.
I was thinking the same thing, like it reverse engineers it, right? It's like it's not actually updating the checkbox, it's assigning the contact and then saying, oh, because that's the contact, this is a true statement kind of a thing.
Something like that is what it feels like. Like I have no absolute, like no backup for this.
Yeah.
you
It
I know
definitely
it's-
allows them to have the role field is just text.
Yeah, the primary field gets set by default typically when you do a lead conversion. It's whatever the contact and they convert to, that's set as the primary. But you can, as you've done probably, you can just go into there and just check the primary checkbox on that actual record.
But you don't, you choose it here in this weird user interface, and then that's what gives them the as primary checkbox.
Correct.
And
And
that's
I've
what I was
discovered-
wondering if it did something weird behind the scenes. Like if you query the contact rules associated with this opportunity, what information do we get?
That's an interesting idea. Give me a sec. I guess I need to share the developer console so we can all play the home game.
While you're looking that up really quick, do the opportunity contact roles, is it the same structure as like the account contact relationship structure? Like, is there a second table that connects everything together? Or is it secondary? I don't get to play with this one very often.
Looks just like it does in the related list.
Like, go switch it out to fields all. Instead of listing out your fields in your query, go with fields all. Sorry, fields, and then all in parentheses.
Yeah, fields is in caps. It's like when you do count. Yeah,
Yep.
and then
And then you have to add a limit statement on the end, just like limit doesn't matter, 200. We're just looking at one, but it always wants a limit. Okay, that didn't help. I was hoping for an unobvious field.
By the
Um,
way, you all
actually-
might find this interesting. I discovered in testing another flow related to this, the one I was talking about from before. If you have two contact roles for the same person and you mark one of them is primary in any of the ways you might do that, that it's essentially that the person is primary, not the role.
Right.
And have two roles. And they will both become is primary.
So can you just expand out the contact ID field here? Like at this point, I'm just grasping straws, but okay, so
No, it's a junction object. It's treated as a junction object.
so do we have 3 people or 3 roles going to the same person in your related list?
No, we have 5 people all with different roles. 3 of them are blank, the text field role, and 2 of them have values.
Yeah, clearly I need to learn to read.
I believe role allows multi-select on this, right?
No, it's a single one, but it's
Is it single?
you can add whatever roles you want in there for it.
Okay, so it does not create like a hidden role that says primary and then that does the box. It literally is the checkbox and just
Apparently.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just a checkbox. I don't think anything's driving that unless you have automation in your org that's driving something in there. That should just be a field you can key off and update.
yeah, it says it's updatable and it says it's creatable. So I would have assumed that you should be able to get to it. So the fact that it's telling you it's a derived field that you can't touch is
I mean, you know, I'm also happy to yield the floor for others to, you know, keep going here, but I will show you what happens in the attempted flow. So so I tried it in the start element, not an option. Let's try it here. Triggering is primary. It shows up equals true. And then I go to save, and I would love it if it just made a liar out of me. Nope.
What if you just get the OCR instead of doing the dollar record thing? If you just do another get records thing and get the OCR.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I mean, just throwing shit at the wall, but it was weird. I was just doing a test and I can see what didn't work about the start element because I can trigger it on, in theory, it lets me save if I triggered on primary is changed true. And it won't let you do that?
It wouldn't let me do that.
Can you go back into your start element? Oh, you can finish this, and then I just want to see what you see there. 'Cause what I see is different.
also, Michael, I found a post about this on Trailhead, Trailblazer community, so I dropped it into you, and it was not fun.
I'm guessing the answer was nope, tough shit for you. Sorry.
The answer was I found a workaround to build my custom, and then we went from there. Which sounds
I'll take a look.
horrific. I found 2. I'll drop you both feed items so you can go take a look if you're interested.
Cool.
Oh, wait, that's the other feed. Okay, wait. No, that's the one I just changed. Nope, didn't like it.
In the decision, it does the same thing.
It's the same error. But it's not the same error, but it's the same error.
So, Steve.
Oh no, wait, maybe if I don't do this, let's try that.
So it's a warning.
True.
The second post that I found, Steve Mo actually responded to and said, you can just ignore it. So I don't know if that means if you ignore it that it will work, but he says you can ignore it.
I mean, in this, so this is great. I'm going to copy Michelle's post from the chat and I will play with this further. Thank you all. The idea of the get record Gaurav, I hadn't thought of. And the client in this case is like, if no one's going to edit is primary anyway, we can let it go if it's not possible.
Right.
So I will give it a try and give up if necessary.
I'm curious. I'll play around. And I just have a very simple flow running on I just created this in like 2 seconds. It just posts to chatter if is primary is changed, and it just fired for me.
So did it give you a warning when you save the flow?
Nope, nothing. Works fine. I just changed his primary. It posted to Chatter. So I might just like strip it all out and start very, very minimal. But I mean, it's literally a record triggered flow. Start is just primary is changed true. That's the only condition. And then if so, it posts to Chatter. It seems to be working. It didn't post when I created the opportunity contact role.
Right.
Didn't post. I'm just going to try editing the role itself and see if that doesn't post. So then we know it's not just firing willy-nilly. And no, it didn't fire then. I'm sorry, I'm not sharing my screen, but I can do that. But anyways, it seems to, yeah, it just fired again when I set unchecked primary. So it seems at like the base level, and it is a record trigger flow. I'm not doing anything with $record though. It just, well, in the start conditions, it just shows the record field. So there's no $record thing. So I haven't tried anything downstream of the start condition, but at least at the, do you want me to share my screen?
Sure.
If there's not, if that's good for others, I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. So can you see? Is it,
Yeah.
all right. So yeah, record triggered flow, start object is OCR, is created or updated. Logic is primary. Oh, fuck, how did that just happen? Oh, this is a copy of it. Sorry, wrong screen. What? It doesn't say primary. It was just set to primary is changed is true. I think I was testing something, but let me save this and activate it. Because, sorry, pardon the F-bomb there on
Nope, there it is.
Yeah, so primary is changed is true. And then it just, all it does is post to Chatter that
Gave you an error before. Well,
It was just the warning.
No warning.
It was just a warning. Okay.
Yeah, and so then let me share this opportunity. And so it just fired twice. But so right now, if I just change the role, it wouldn't fire. But if I uncheck primary, then it'll fire again. There were 2, and now there should be 3, right? So it just fired. But if I just change the role, it doesn't fire. It's just if I change primary. So,
Okay, now what happens if you use, instead of the little arrow on the individual role, the one for all the contact roles? Yeah, that one, edit contact.
Yeah.
Role.
Oh, edit contact roles. I haven't tried. It's funny. We actually don't use opportunity contact roles. We have a custom object because we're special. Let's see. I don't know what any of the tests.
Put someone in something in the top one.
I figured. Oh yes, and that's what.
So is primary. Yeah.
So this actually won't fire because I have it only set to fire is changed.
Is changed, right?
Right. So is changed doesn't fire on insert. It'll only fire, but the edit should work. Right. So if I change this from Stella to Jack, it should fire on both of them because Stella's being unchecked and Jack is being checked. Right. So should fire twice is what I'm saying. And hey, look, I think it just fired twice.
So Michael, about a week and a half ago, I had to create a case with Salesforce because I legitimately had a flow that was holding on to a glitch in the code underneath it.
Right.
And I just had to rebuild the flow.
That's an option to look at. Yeah, just start from scratch with a just flow on OCR like that, is primary, is changed. And if that, can post a Chatter, then, you could go from there kind of thing.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
People.
Well, thank you. I'll stop sharing.
So what is the lesson here, Michael? If it doesn't, delete it and start again. Is that what we're getting out of this?
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
There it is.
Smack it on the side. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you
Demo
can make more
it
warnings
in front of
too.
a group of people and see what they say.
I mean, I will offer that there were a lot of quizzical looks, so I think we were all pretty impressed with that one. So let's see here.
And not in a positive way.
Right.
So Pat is our next chat question.
And Pat, Pat was looking for Commerce Cloud Trailhead learning. There's a handful out there, and there was a couple people who posted stuff. But what is it you want to try to like? Where are you trying to get to, Pat? Maybe let's start there.
Learn how to administer Commerce Cloud.
So
There's probably an opportunity coming up in the very near future of working on a B2B Commerce Cloud site with about 800 or 900 real products, and then another 3 or 4 thousand products for channel partners, blah blah blah. So, um, but it's not a retail. It's not B2C. It's B2B, along with an Experience Cloud site.
all right. So I mean, I know there's a ton of Experience Cloud content specifically, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of moving parts in a B2B commerce site as far as storefronts and everything else. Personally, I don't believe I've ever seen a specific trail that kind of covers you end to end. I think it's a lot of poking and prodding. Has anybody else done that work? As far as
And
the role, Pat, are you? I mean, are you building the storefront? Are you administering the back end? Is it the UI? Like, where is it? Everything? Like, you just kind of being handed a B2B idea?
no, it's already built,
Okay.
but that doesn't mean that you don't need to know the back end of it to administer it,
Sure.
wrangle it, the whole thing of it. And um, it's kind of like this is just the opposite of CPQ. There's all these CPQ,
Mm-hmm.
things to do, but Commerce Cloud, I've been kind of poking around for about 3 or 4 days while I'm in Florida at my mom's, and it's like everything comes up to be in a quiz. But what was shared, I hadn't seen that one yet, that trail yet, because I'll go in and look at some of the things in the modules and scroll through, and it's all theory,
Right, right.
nothing hands on. So
Okay. I would also offer when I was just recently reviewing the Experience Cloud consultant content, and there's a big chunk that's tied to the B2B architect cert that it might be a little too high level from what you're looking for, but it might start to point you in the right directions as far as follow-on videos or webinars or things. You know, it's always like adjacent to the Trailhead content.
yeah,
Um,
gotcha.
but I don't know. Again, has anybody else had to do any of that research? Anybody else got any ideas? Jake
There,
did post something, right?
I just found a free trial for the starter suite on Commerce Cloud, so I dropped a link to that. There's also, I'm gonna drop this in the regular chat because they have a variety of developer environments for different things that you can get besides just a standard dev org. So like there's automotive cloud, comm cloud, consumer goods cloud for retail, education, energy and utilities, financial services, health, life services, media, net zero. Like there's a ton in here. So if those are helpful for anyone, I just dropped the link in there and I think they're all 30-day trial.
Yeah, yeah, I've looked at that link, but it's not actually what, it's kind of like none of them say Commerce Cloud. Of course not, it's
Right.
Salesforce. So but this is helpful though, the Experience Cloud Architect and consultant. So
So also there's a thread on Trailhead that because Commerce Cloud was built on a different technology stack, it's built on Demandware, or at least was back in the day, you had to be a customer to be able to log into the Demandware site to be able to get a sandbox. So I dropped a link to that in as well in case that's of any interest. But it sounds like that's going to force you to front some cash to Salesforce before they'll give you some access.
no, not me. I won't front any cash. I will maybe quite possibly, pretty possibly have access to a Commerce Cloud, a real Commerce Cloud, because I wouldn't be poking around in that for for B2B. B2C, yeah, okay, you got all the million trailheads to do, but B2B, but I appreciate it, Michelle. Thank you.
One last option, Jake put it in there, but I think I may have found a different one. There's a 2-day B2B manage and merchandise the Salesforce Commerce Store hands-on. And there's even a class coming up in May that maybe that would be what you want, because I have to assume that's going to be with a site with content that you can like learn while you're there.
Yeah, it is. I took that a couple years ago.
Okay. Is that the one that you posted? I haven't been able to
I
click
just
everything.
posted all of the commerce ones, but one of them is that B2B one, and it does, you set up a storefront and it's geared towards business to business.
Jake, where'd you post that in the
It's in the reply to your initial post there.
Oh, okay. All right.
I moved it down to the bottom too if you want
Cool.
it quicker. It's the same link.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, of
Yeah.
course, I'm not very good at back and forth. I'm a straight aheader.
We gotcha.
Thanks.
We gotcha.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, to be honest, of all the content out there, that's the most robust that I've ever encountered for commerce stuff out there. Because there's the Trailhead is a great tool, but it's very light in that category, as you probably encountered, and it doesn't really prepare you to actually manage a storefront. Whereas that class, you get to build it from scratch, you see how everything gets set up from, then you kind of go from there, you will get a better understanding of what's actually going on there versus trying to piecemeal it together from other trailheads.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thanks.
You bet. Pricing. Say more, Michael.
You know me, I'm always a troublemaker.
Yeah.
This one, I think we probably can, because I want help from this group to understand customer, community, login, pricing, in particular, the difference between login based and member based. Because I'm getting the runaround from an AE. If I understand correctly, and I will drop in a link and then I will screen share it so people don't all have to open the PDF. This is the Experience Cloud pricing for nonprofits. It's just a discount off of regular community cloud licensing, I believe. The real question I'm asking is the login-based pricing.
What the fuck?
If one person logs in 3 times in the month, that means it would be more expensive to license that person as a login based than as a member. Yes?
There was some people on here may know more than me, but I just know when I was talking to my AE, there was some really weird math that went on in the pricing, and $125 per member per month did not mean what it seems like. That's all I can recall. But it drove me absolutely nuts because it made no sense. Even when they said it in writing, it made no sense. And it was much less, and it was going on the side of it being much less expensive than you would think. That was like what I recall from that thing, but it was still so confusing that I was like, I don't really want to deal with this. So people who actually know better, I would love to know.
Michelle, that's very small. I'm stopping sharing now. Now hold it up again, Michelle.
Okay, so this is my source material.
Okay.
So there is a graph in here that explains the difference in pricing between login centric and named user. And at the time of this book being published, the cost ratio of named user to login community license is 3. So if they log in 3 times a month, it makes sense for them to be a named user. If they log in less than that, it makes sense to do it on a per login basis.
Okay, that's what I was getting.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So
Phil wrote this a while back.
But it still applies.
Yeah. So I don't know if the pricing has changed to change the tipping point, but essentially what it is like each time a human logs in 24 hours, And I
Yep.
think that's like a set 24-hour period counts as one login
Yes,
for the month if you have login-based pricing. So if I
Yes.
log in today, right now, and I log in 3 hours from now again, that's still me
it's
with
the
one
same.
login.
Yes, I
If
got that.
tomorrow at 4 o'clock I log in again, now I've logged in twice this month and I've took up 2 from your pool.
Yes,
So does it make sense for me to be a named user if I log in every day of the month? Probably.
yeah.
I think that's why
But
they
even
like
if you
to-
log in 4 days of the month, it does, is what you're confirming for me.
But,
Well,
I mean,
I think it depends on volume. Like if I give you 100,000 logins a month, but you only have 500 people who will ever be able to log in, how many times would I have, like, could I possibly log in enough to tip the scales on that number? So like,
Yeah,
I think it's
sure.
also about the pool of logins you receive and the sum total of potential people who could log in and hit that limit. So
Yep.
there's more.
Someone was saying something. Go other person.
the other piece is just if they are logging in routinely throughout the year, then the member licensing is the pattern you're looking for. And so like 3 times a month for a lot of portals, like that's kind of a lot. If it's something like your donor portal to get your receipts in December, the way, because it's billed annually, it's also overages are calculated annually. So if you burn through 3 months in December, they shouldn't come around and recalculate on, or tell you that you have to recalculate at your next billing. It's annualized out.
Yep.
So that backloading or front loading, depending on where your contract cycle is, that heavy load in one window keeps you encouraged towards the login licensing. It's what it's kind of, for
Yeah.
application portals in higher ed, for donor portals in nonprofit, in other markets, other things. But those are the places I think of it. But it is that kind of, if it's a heavy load in one part of the year, login licensing. If it's a steady use throughout the year, you're probably at member licensing.
That answered the question, and I will tell you all what the use case was, and you'll all go, why is your AE even thinking about it? The use case is teachers doing attendance 5 days a week.
Yep.
Which means as soon as I said 5 days a week, if I had said 3 days a week, the AE should have said,
Member.
you want member licenses. But the
That-
AE kept persisting, saying login licenses will be cheaper, and then sent me a quote that was 6 times what I had calculated member pricing would be. She's trying
Yeah.
to just upsell. Thank you.
Yeah, that is a use case for member licensing. Yep.
I think if I'm not mistaken, and I was trying to find it, but I can't find it. There was a great like a roundtable a little while ago about like the math that goes into determining the best case use, like license management for what you're describing. And the laughable part of it was you need a year of data to make the right decision, but you don't get a chance to renew in a year to get the right decision. So you have to like make this guess, which is what you're doing, right? You have to be like, I'm assuming this, but then you're signed up, right? So
Well, and those license swaps, if you do swap them, are also a non-trivial effort
yeah.
to replace all those licenses.
Yep. Yeah. And then the like the tertiary piece of all that too is like once you make that decision, then it's really easy to play Chicken Little and say, well, what happens if this? And now I'm going to be over and get billed. And, if you've got a really tight budget, you can't afford, to your point of like that seasonality or that spike in the end of the year. Like we have a situation where we have licenses for our internal community for our charitable giving. And we have very little logins for 10 months of the year. And then November, December, where everybody's logging and looking for matching, it spikes. So depending when you run your reports or when negotiations are happening, it's really easy to say, no, you need this. Like, not really. No, we just need to have there's a special term for like that spike. So if you want to have login based licensing, but you can have that spike in March or December or whatever, I can't remember what they call it, but you can add that to the contract, or at least you used to be able to.
Seasonal. I think it's seasonal pricing.
Yeah.
Seasonal.
Yep.
The other thing I've learned with clients who have login licensing that's worth making sure people pay attention to when they get them is that the license counts in the UI are the number of licenses that could be issued. So on logins, that's 5-to-1 of what you purchased and has nothing to do with the number of people who have logged in.
Right.
It is, or in any given window, it is the total number of licenses that have been issued versus what could be issued, even though they're being used in a totally different pattern. So like that interface is meant for a different kind, for the member licenses and for the standard traditional licenses. So anything consumption focused, that interface is just raw.
Yeah.
And we'll confuse, like I've got a client right now, we've gone over it a couple of times. Like, this is what this means. Like, nope, that's what you think it would mean. And other people might think it would mean, but this is consistent over the history of the of the platform. It reflects what it used to be, not these consumption-based approaches.
Look what you have to get ready for, Pat. You get to try to manage that little snarl too. So congratulations.
I don't know. I'll tell you in a couple weeks. So probably, but you know.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. We checking the time. We got 20 minutes. I haven't seen any other questions come in. Does anybody have anything top of mind they want to talk about? I have a couple ideas, but I don't want to run the meeting. I want the group to do that. Silence is golden. All right, so I'll just throw this out there. So the first one is we are implementing Mule. I'm very excited about the idea of implementing Mule, mainly because we are Azure shop, and Azure and Salesforce have never been really good friends. Any recommendations as far as the best way to train up the group that you're working with? So like the myself and my co-architect have it fully covered, but eventually we have to kind of hand off to other teams. Has anybody had to deal with that? And what have you done?
You're looking like resources to train on Mule.
Yeah. So, I mean, and really what the challenge is like, it's really easy to say, yeah, just take the Dev 401 content, you'll be ready. But like, we're not really sure if that's the right content yet, because we haven't fully implemented, or if that content will be useful for an admin. But on the other hand, when you look at like, say, the 150 content, you can speak the language, but there's not much there to make you be like a resource or a SME once you've implemented it. Just there's like a weird like breakpoint.
Hey, Squire.
Yo,
There in Milwaukee, we actually have a MuleSoft user group.
really?
Yeah, it's online. And Karen, she does a great job. She's actually one of like she was Salesforce MuleSoft Person of the Year or something like that. So I would reach out to her with questions, and then she's always looking for content. So that's also a great topic that I can also reach out to her to see if she can present on as well.
And who's the user? Is it Myra?
No, it's I'm trying to hold on one second. The one that runs the group is I call her Corinne. It's KIRANJOT, and her last name is KAUR.
Okay.
And she's a great resource, and like I said, she runs the local Milwaukee group. And she does it all. She does it virtual, so when she has a meeting virtual, but you can reach out to her and ask questions. And if you want, I can reach out ahead of time and prep that call to her. You can make
Okay.
a intro to you two as well if you like.
You know what? I love that. Let us get our feet underneath us, and then I definitely will engage. And I'll ask for some help. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Other than that, I can't help you other than this 401 because that's all I've done.
All right. All right. Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Scar, I'm on the automation council, and so Isabella Navarro is technically part of MuleSoft. But she straddles the MuleSoft Flow world. She would be thrilled to help get you in contact with any MuleSoft community leaders or get you involved in the MuleSoft community that they have that's very similar to the Trailblazer community.
Yep.
So when you're ready, if Jake's suggestion is not sufficient and you need more, I can lean on her to get some more resources for you.
I appreciate that as well. I think it's probably only a matter of time till I'm on the Muley path as well. So I'm sure that's going to help us as well. So thanks.
Andrew Shanks works for the Oregon Humane Society. I think he's a big Flow and MuleSoft guy, so he would be a good person to connect with.
Awesome. I think our biggest concern is we've got a really great consulting group helping us get spun up, kind of greasing the wheels, I guess. But it's a short-term engagement, and then I'm super paranoid that when they're gone, it's going to be Sunil and I trying to do it all, and so just trying to get ahead of it. So thanks.
Ask a lot of questions.
Yeah. And quite honestly, I maybe Jake, to your experience, the content is great. I mean, I did the boot camp probably too soon for what I wanted to get out of it, but I'm going back through the 4.1 trail. That's basically just a port from Mule's original site, and it's great content.
Yeah, that's great for you. It's just a matter of what are they doing and how does it apply to what you've learned.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Gaurav, I thought I saw your hand go up, or you just saying
all
hi?
good.
All right, cool. All right. What else? Anybody? Oh, I see something, maybe. Ooh, WeChat.
Anyone ever done WeChat? I think it's probably similar to SMS, but thought I would ask since we are quiet. Wow, crickets.
Yeah.
Oh well.
What's the reason for using it? Like, I mean, why wouldn't you just use an SMS connector or something?
Client is a community organization in Chinatown of Chicago. Their primary constituents are Chinese speakers and Chinese immigrants. They do ESL, they do some other things, and they asked me about communicating via WeChat.
Got it.
Does WeChat do something special for like translations or something? I've never actually heard of WeChat.
I don't think it does anything special. I think it's just the most popular chat app in China.
I'm gonna say, is that like WhatsApp?
Got it.
Any idea where is it hosted? Is it Chinese hosting? No idea.
I have not even begun looking into it. I thought I would ask this group.
Yeah. All right. To the App Exchange. I have to assume there's something out there, right?
There must be.
Yeah.
Looks like there's a pilot for it right now. Just with a quick Google search.
All right.
Right.
I mean, and in the limited experience I have, most of these SMS endpoints are pretty easy to engage with APIs that, like there's a million pre-built connectors and all the tooling. So it might be super easy, but knock on wood, I don't want to gooch it, but.
Yeah.
Anybody dealing with the profile to perm conversion? Like you got a project in place you're trying to get moved over. I know we don't have a deadline yet, but it's hot and heavy in a lot of orgs. Anybody doing that?
We've got a couple in flight.
How's that going?
It depends on what you're doing. Like if you're trying to go from a profile to a monolithic permission set, it's not too hard. If you're trying to actually break your permission sets apart more appropriately and then assign permission set groups and then deal with the fact that nobody really at this point has a org where people are only signed in a profile. So you need to deal with the profile plus the 5 random permission sets Michael has and the 6 Gorev has and Michelle's 8 and Aaron's 1. That comparison, particularly because you kind of want to have it like compare their permissions in prod to their permissions in a sandbox, so you can check before you deploy things. That's a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Is the challenge it's just so monolithic, or is that there's not an easy path? And the reason I'm asking is, you know, we're working on this as well, and one of the biggest things that I think we're struggling with from a like how to move the needle is those persona definitions that are going to drive all those other technical choices. They're so hard to kind of put your head around, and there's like voice in my head is like, we should just start from scratch versus try to reverse engineer it. Like instead of, well, I've got a profile and 13 permissions, let's turn that into a profile and 10. It's more like, let's pretend we had nothing. Is it easier to build up toward a target or tear it down and rebuild? You know what I'm saying?
So can I offer a terrible suggestion for thought-provoking purposes?
I expect nothing less.
Okay, so the client I'm currently working on, I did not do this. I inherited this, where they decided to start doing this by generating a permission set based on cred for the object, and then just pile tons of those into a persona-based permission set group. So I have a permission set for account read and edit, account read, create it, like cred, all including delete. And then based on what persona permission set group I have, determines whether they get account read and edit, or account cred.
Right.
So like, it's a different kind of monolithic, I think. It's monolithic in terms of just stacking to the moon, tiny little pieces. But it's made it real flexible in some other ways, because it's this object. What access do you need to this object? Stick it in a persona and go on with your life.
So it's so composable that it's easy to assign but hard to manage. Is that a right way to summarize it?
Because
Okay.
like every time I add a field, I have to go add that field to every permission set for that object on either read, edit,
Yeah.
whatever. So basically, it's just managing all of the individual permission sets. And I don't know if you run into a limit on how many permission sets you can have, because if, let's say, you could have 4 permission sets for every object, one for read create, one for read edit, one for delete, and then multiply that by the number of objects in your org. And then everything else you need a permission set for. So
Yeah.
granularity is obnoxious. And maybe not sustainable long term.
But also for me, that I wonder, like typically users need different access to specific fields on the object, not just that they need read or edit on the object, but like some users need edit on specific fields. So then how does that layer into that object level kind of matrix?
Fortunately, they haven't gotten that sophisticated yet, but it's coming
Okay.
soon. So I can't wait to see what I have to untangle then. Like I said,
Right.
thought-provoking,
No,
not
it's
something that
interesting.
is a good idea.
Hadn't even
Yeah.
crossed my mind.
No,
Yeah.
and it's as we've talked through it with clients, and one of the things we've struggled with is what is that right balance? How many times do you have 4 permission sets that essentially grant the same access but do it to a different persona versus have really tiny 800 really tiny permission sets that do the function, and then you assign that function to a bunch of places, and then you have to, like, which one becomes the maintenance headache?
Yeah.
And I haven't found what I'm confident is a good pattern yet. I feel like I've been on projects where we erred in both directions, and haven't necessarily found that happy middle just yet, or semi-happy middle. I will say I've been intrigued by, we have a client who did the move from monolithic profile to monolithic permission set, try to break the permission sets up. And while that has some real obvious downsides of you created these giant permission sets that took a lot of effort to create, it did mean they've started to move forward. Like it got them out of analysis paralysis. And it's been all the way through to that last piece that I was describing at the beginning of like, how do I know that Squire has the permission Squire had before, plus or minus the fact that maybe they weren't actually right before? Like, how do I clean
Right.
up that tech debt piece?
Right.
At the individual level, that they actually have made pretty steady progress because they did just start moving forward. And there's some obvious double work time consumption challenges there, and they did it before we were in the first round before we were engaged, so it's not like they paid us. They did it in-house. And yeah, like there is some appeal to that. Like forward progress is better than perfect
Yeah.
to some extent. But again, it does give you a different set of trades.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's that the journey of a million miles starts with one step. Like you have to move the bar and then keep evaluating. I mean, I'm with you. It's painful. So, and
I think the larger and the more complex your old setup was, the more it probably argues for that. Like, just recreate your profiles with permission sets and get moving.
Yep.
And then fix your permission sets. They're a whole lot easier to manage in the meantime than dealing with profiles or a blend.
Agreed. And I'm gonna, Michael, I am on the side of if user access policies had been here first, we wouldn't be talking about permission set groups at all, right? And I'd like to try to suggest to the teams that I'm working with that let's not even talk about a PSG unless you're talking about muting. Let's do it all with access policies. Here's the benefits. I don't know if I'm not saying that's the right way, but I want us to think that way because otherwise you start to build as though you're going to use a PSG and then the risks that are part of that become really apparent. So,
and I have, I think, more or less confirmed with, I'm not going to name names, right people to ask, that user access policies should be used instead of PSGs, except that PSGs existed first. So if you're starting from scratch, just go straight to user access policies.
agreed.
Except for muting, but I can't figure out how to make muting all that useful because the muting is only within the one PSG, in which case you end up needing infinite PSGs and you haven't solved the problem.
The place that we find muting really useful is when you're using somebody else's base permission set.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like a managed one.
And the managed package grants too much in its user permission and you need to pull back, or something from Salesforce is too broad and you need to tighten. And then you can just start treating the PSG as particularly with an access policy, as a permission set.
Right.
This is the adjusted.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought that through. That's really interesting.
Public sector solutions is notorious for this because there's a permission set license that you have to use a specific object that is tied to 17 other objects. It's a fee, and the fee can have a parent of one of these 17 other objects. And so if I don't want you to have access to all 17 of those objects, I still have to assign you this permission set license, and then we go in and we mute it to say, you can only see 3 of these objects that we actually need you to worry about, but because I need you to see the fees that's associated with all of them. So that's the first time that I've gone, oh, hey, muting permissions here actually makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like like PSG and muting, it's almost like it feels like something you have to use, and it should be communicated as like when you absolutely need it. Like it almost, you know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like a feature that you don't want to use. And instead it feels like, how are we going to use this? Like that conversation keeps bubbling up all the time. All right. Well, we have 3 minutes, and I would talk about permissioning all day, every day, if someone allowed it, but we'll beat that one down. Did we miss anything? Did anybody else have anything that they wanted to get the crew, the group thinking about before we run out of time?
I don't see anything else in chat.
All right. I think just scanning through. I feel like maybe I'll talk this over with Joy. It might be really valuable to have kind of a, I don't want to say an agenda item, but like if we knew, like almost like a roundtable like kickoff, so that we always knew that there was like, by the way, we're going to circle wagons on this week, because I think permissions and access and stuff, that's going to get more and more and more critical, and a lot of times I feel like there are topics that they only come up when we're like, oh crap, right? But it'd be great to be thinking about these things ahead of time and help everybody there. So I'll keep that in mind. Maybe it would be good content, maybe not, we'll see. So all right, but with that, I think we'll give everybody a minute to grab a cup of coffee for the next meeting. Thank you everyone for joining today. This is such a recharge for me to see all of you, and I hope that you feel the same. I hope you have a great weekend. We will see you in 2 weeks. Joy will be back, and she'll want to know all about what we talked about. So in the meantime, stay awesome, and we'll see you in 2.
Thank you, Squire.
Bye.
Thank you.